Action-based consent at George Brown College is brought to you by the Office of Anti-Racism, Equity, and Human Rights Services. In this video, we will discuss the barriers to consent culture and how to identify them in our surroundings, relationships, and ourselves. A is for awareness. This video includes non-explicit discussion of sexual and gender-based violence. You are encouraged to take care of yourself throughout and after this video. Please see our list of supports and resources or connect with us directly at svra@georgebrown.ca. In order to identify the barriers to consent culture, we must examine the dominant historical and current culture. We will do this as it relates to sex, sexuality, gender, and our overall interactions with each other. In order to do that, it can be useful to first define a culture. A culture is the thoughts, attitudes, value systems, and beliefs adopted by a society that then translate into the activities, behaviors, social norms, practices, and assumptions in that community. The place to look for a dominant culture are the places that it is reflected to us, like TV shows and films, what we learn and don't learn in school, the stories in books and magazines, our religious institutions, social media, and in our interactions with each other. With this in mind, it is not a stretch to say that our dominant culture is what we call rape culture. This term, as well as this diagram, may be familiar to you. But what does it all mean, and how does it play out in our actual lives? This pyramid names different types of gender-based and sexual harassment and harms. At the top of the pyramid, we see the most extreme examples of rape culture. But most people are likely, and hopefully, to be more familiar with, have witnessed, or participated in the lower parts of the pyramid. These commonplace examples of activities, behaviors, social norms, practices, and assumptions are the building blocks that make those top of the pyramid outcomes possible. Regardless of which tier of the pyramid a harm resides, there can be negative impacts to our emotional, spiritual, and physical well-being, and they are all real and valid. Further, this pyramid has its foundations, roots, and is fueled by the value systems named here: racism, sexism, ableism, trans and homophobia, patriarchy, white supremacy, capitalism, and colonialism. Let's sit with this diagram for a few seconds. All right, jumping back to those places we find representations of dominant cultures, as it relates to rape culture and how it informs our relationships, they all feed into each other. We have a bit of a chicken and egg situation. But let's look briefly at a pretty common, seemingly harmless, and really effective mechanism for this conditioning: fairy tales. We are going to talk specifically about fairy tales in the Western Hemisphere, as that is where GBC is located. But we acknowledge that fairy tales, classic stories, and origin stories are found globally, across time and cultures, many of which have been stolen by colonization, have rich diversity and equal significance. With that in mind, think of a popular fairy tale. Who are the heroes? Who are the villains? What are their motivations? If there are families, how are the roles of father and mother depicted? Which roles in the story are assigned to specific genders? Are more than two genders represented? What is the dynamic between characters of the same gender? How are the characters described in terms of their appearances? How does their appearance relate to their personality or role within the story? And finally, if there is romance, what is the dynamic between the characters based on their genders? Can you think of romantic relationships that aren't heterosexual or, in essence, between men and women? Chances are the answers to these questions line up pretty well with the messaging that affirms what we see in the rape culture pyramid. This is important to note because these stories and base narratives surround us our entire lives and shape how we see each other and ourselves in our own relationships. It is totally normal to be skeptical or to feel challenged by what we've just reviewed. There may be examples in the pyramid that you agree with or align with your personal wants. The goal of awareness building isn't to make anyone feel bad or to tell you how to feel at all. The goal is to invite you to reflect on your thoughts, feelings, values, and behaviors, and critically think about where they come from, how sustainable they are, the impacts, and if they are authentic to you. So what now? In other videos in this series, we will talk about what to do. In B is for bystander, we discuss how to step in if we observe harassment or harm. And in C is for consent culture, we discuss the ways we can collectively create a culture of consent on campus. That's all for this video of action-based consent at GBC. Be sure to check out the other videos in this series.